Hi, I'm Nick Shell, and if you're watching this video, which you definitely are, and there's a good chance you happen to have seen my new song on another video, which I will put in the link to this description, the song being called We Had a Good Run. So I always enjoy making these videos to explain, as the songwriter, why I chose to write this song and go through all the lyrics and explain what they mean to me as the writer, because I recognize that I can write it one way, you hear it a different way, and it means something else to you, which is a lot of what songwriting is all about. It's not necessarily my version of the song, is maybe more importantly what it means to you. But here's what it means to me. We had a good run. I completed this song on March 22nd of 2020, which I guess would be the year of the coronavirus, COVID-19. And I started writing this song in the midst of COVID-19. And for me, it was the thought of, what if I don't see my parents again? That's honestly where this started from. And so I thought, well, what would I want to say to them specifically that I haven't already told them? You know, you can tell a person that you care deeply about that you love them. You can tell them that every time you see them. You can hug them, but there's certain things you can't quite put into words. And that's what I wanted to do. If this were my final chance to say anything to them, what would I say? And not to be fatalistic about it, I am very optimistic about us all surviving this thing. But I felt that in that moment, I wanted to write how I felt. And so I whipped this song out in about 30 minutes. It just came to me, the chords, the melody, the words just presented themselves because it came from such a sincere, solid place. So that's what inspired the song. But I think ultimately the part that can be a little bit more universal about it is, and while I never actually say COVID-19 in it, I do make a reference to the apocalypse. It's ultimately a matter of taking a moment to think about the people that you love, and if you never saw them again, taking that moment in and thinking, how do I feel about them? How can I put into words beyond I love you and here's a hug? So here we go. The song is called We Had a Good Run. And I think that title was probably inspired by something my wife said as COVID-19 was starting to shake up the world. And I feel like she said, you know what? We've had a good life, even if it all ends here in the next little bit. We've had a good life together. And then I think I picked up there, I was like, yeah, we've had a good run. And I was like, oh, that's a song. So combining that with the thought of what would I say to my parents, that's how the song was ultimately born. Here we go. 3 minutes into this video, I'm just now getting the lyrics. Verse 1, if this was my final chance to say the things I haven't yet, I would choose you every time if I could have 1,000 lives, if I could live 1,000 lives. And that was actually a reference to a movie called The Guilt Trip with Seth Rogen and Barbra Streisand. But she said, if all the little boys were lined up in the world, I would choose you every time. And so I borrowed from that, but it's how I feel. If I could have chosen to be born into any family and have 1,000 different times, knowing what my life would have ended up like being born to my parents in the family that I would choose that every time. So to me, that's the song right there. I don't even need to say anything else. Like, that's the thing that if I haven't said it, there it is. But I continued to write a song anyway, even though that's the whole point of the song. You loved me when I was young, before I was who I've become, which is just a clever way of saying, you loved me before I grew up. You nurtured me into who I am today. When all this is said and done, all I know is we had a good run. Another way, it's like every time I'm just summarizing the whole song, like what this comes down to. But into the chorus, we had a good run. I don't want to see the ending. We had a good run. I don't want a new beginning. And I think that's very strong language in that. And because I know that there's no such thing as happily ever after. Life is quite anticlimactic, and I reference that a lot in the songs that I write. So do I really want to see this whole thing end? If things are going well, what if we did just all, the world ended and that was it? Okay, well, we had a good run. And the line on there, I don't want a new beginning. It's funny because when it comes to the concept of what happens next, I mean, even from a Christian biblical perspective, I don't think heaven's going to be as simple and clear cut as we think it's going to be. I don't know that we'll look the same, that we'll necessarily have a memory of our life before so much, if the old things are passing away, which I get to that later on in the second verse. Hold on, hold on, hold on to me. I can't let go. No, we had a good run. It's just this concept of, if you're having to say goodbye to someone, you don't want to let go of them. And that's going to be impossible. Even for the people in our lives that if we live long lives, we're still going to have to say goodbye to people on this life. And it's just that concept of letting go of someone you don't want to let go of. Moving on to the second verse. I'll see you on the other side, whatever heaven ends up like. Which again, a very biblical Christian perspective is what I have of heaven. But beyond streets of gold and no more crying and all things have passed away, it's still pretty vague. Like, we can only have a human understanding of it. So whatever that ends up looking like, I will see you there. I'll find you somewhere in that crowd. Like, yeah, how's that going to be? There's going to be billions of people there. And then do you have to find the people that you knew in your earthly life? How does that work? I'll find you somewhere in that crowd, whatever we both look like now. And I'm very aware of that. Even thinking of my grandparents. Okay, so I knew when I was a baby, they were in their 50s. So will they be young? Will I be older? How does that work out? But that goes for anybody, despite age. How will we recognize each other? But I'm saying, I'll find you. And that's the strong language there. And if we can remember back to all the years we had, we'll pick up where things left off. All I know is we had a good run. It's this concept of celebrating all that's good in this life with the people that we share it with and that we love. And this longing to be able to continue that in heaven. That's the second verse. So I go back to the chorus, and then I have sort of an offbeat bridge on this. I used chords that were barely in the key. I really experimented, and because there's 4 chords that belong on every key, and this one's the key of D. So it's I'm trying to think, how do I play one? No, it's not even the key. See, that's another song I'm working on. But it's funny because it's like C, G, E minor, D, which are the main chords. But then all of a sudden I put in a B minor, an F sharp minor, and even in A, I believe, yeah, an A, which is the next key up. So it's just like, it's almost like I do a key change in a way, almost moving to the next key, which symbolizes kind of this concept of moving on, but not really, because after I do this key change, then I have to like do this little strumming thing to work my way back to the original key. And without that transition, it sounded really weird. I had to really figure out the right chords to bridge me back to where I came from. So do a key change, kind of go up to the next key of A, and then work back. But here's the bridge. I must have been built for the apocalypse, which, by the way, I was considering making that its own song. But when I needed a bridge for this too, so then I was like, actually, instead of making that a song, make that the bridge of the song. I must have been built for the apocalypse. I don't feel anxious or too worried about this, which is funny because that's honestly how I feel. I'm not anxious about this. If it happens, so be it. I just don't want it to be prolonged, and it's almost like a better deal if we just all go at the same time, which is exactly the next line. I'd rather us all go at the exact same time than to be left behind and have to say goodbye. It's funny because one of my favorite bands of all time is REM, and one of their most popular songs is It's the End of the World as We Know It. And I wear that album out. Not just that one song, but the whole album is great. But in that song, it's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. And I wasn't thinking about that song when I wrote this, but yet Michael Stipe, the lead singer and songwriter of that song, I feel the same way as him. If this is it, I'm okay with it. Let's just do this thing, and let's watch the end of the world happen, and at least we're in it together. So there you go. There's my song. We had a good run. I've written so many songs and performed on this channel, and I gotta say, if I can have a personal favorite of my own, this might be my personal favorite, because it's therapeutic to be able to say things that I've never been able to express before. So again, the whole premise of this song is communicating beyond I love you and a hug to the people that you've shared your entire life with. And specifically, I wrote this for my parents, for my family, and it can mean whatever it needs to other people. But at least for me, inspired by that concept in the midst of COVID-19, which this song definitely, I guess, is my first official COVID-19 song. Other than that joke one I did called "When's This Year Gonna Be Over?" But as far as taking more of a serious turn at this, We Have a Good Run is the byproduct of that. Your comments belong right here.